My heart sank as I stared at the text from Ethan. I want a divorce. 20 years of marriage, and this was how he chose to tell me? Fury and disbelief swirled inside me as I stormed into the living room, clutching my phone. My hands were trembling, my voice on the verge of breaking. What does this mean, Ethan? I demanded, my tone sharp and unsteady. He glanced up from his laptop, completely unfazed, as if I had interrupted something trivial. It means exactly what it says, Valerie. I'm done. I want a divorce.
Why?
My voice cracked under the weight of the word. After all these years, why now? Ethan sighed dramatically, like he was already exhausted by a conversation he didn't want to have. I've been seeing someone else, he admitted, his words slicing through the air like a dagger. Natalie, my coworker. We're in love, and I want to start fresh with her. The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Natalie. The young, blonde woman I'd seen him with at office parties. The one who always seemed to linger too close, laugh too loudly at his jokes. How long has this been going on? I asked, my throat tightening. 6 months, he replied coldly. And before you ask, yes, she'll be moving in here soon. You need to pack your things and leave. My blood boiled. This is my home too, Ethan, I said, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and heartbreak. You don't get to just kick me out. He stood up, towering over me with an intimidating glare. I can and I will, he said, his tone clipped. This is happening, Valerie. You might as well accept it and make this easier on everyone. Tears welled in my eyes, spilling down my cheeks as I grappled with the depth of his betrayal. What about Olivia and Emma? I asked, my voice breaking. Have you thought about what this will do to them? They're grown, he said with a shrug. They'll understand. I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head in disbelief. Oh, I'm sure they'll understand just fine. They'll understand their father is a selfish cheater, willing to destroy his family for a fling. Ethan's patience snapped. That's enough, Valerie, he roared, slamming his fist on the table. I've made my decision, and I want you out of this house by the end of the week. His words hit me like a slap across the face. I stared at him, shattered, my heart breaking into pieces I wasn't sure I could put back together. You'll regret this, Ethan, I whispered, my voice trembling but firm. I promise you that. I turned and walked out of the room, slamming the door behind me. My chest heaved with suppressed sobs as I climbed into my car, unsure of where to go or what to do next. I drove aimlessly, tears blurring my vision as my mind raced with questions. Where would I live? How would I tell our daughters? How could I face the humiliation of being abandoned for a younger woman? When I finally stopped driving, I found myself outside Sophia's house. My best friend answered the door, her expression softening into concern the moment she saw my tear-streaked face. Val, what happened? She asked, pulling me into a hug. I broke down, my words tumbling out in a rush. Ethan's leaving me, I sobbed. He's been having an affair, and now he wants me out of the house. Sophia's grip on me tightened, and I heard the anger in her voice as she said, That bastard. I always knew he wasn't good enough for you. Don't you worry, Val. You're not going through this alone. He's not getting away with this. Her fierce words lit a spark of determination in me. As I cried in her arms, I realized she was right. Ethan thought he could toss me aside like I was nothing. He thought I would crumble and fade away. But he was wrong. This wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning. Ethan had no idea what was coming. I stepped into the house, bracing myself for the conversation I dreaded most, talking to my daughters, Olivia and Emma. They were seated at the kitchen table, engrossed in their phones. When they noticed me, their faces gave nothing away. Girls, I began, my voice trembling slightly. We need to talk. Olivia lifted an eyebrow, her tone cutting. Is this about Dad's new girlfriend? The words hit me like a slap. You know about Natalie? I stammered, struggling to process their calmness. Emma rolled her eyes, her response cold. Of course, we know. We're not stupid, Mom. Dad's been with her for months. And you're okay with this? I asked, incredulous. Olivia shrugged nonchalantly. Why wouldn't we be? Dad's happy. Natalie's nice. And honestly, Mom, it's not like you've been around much anyway. Her words stung deeper than I could have imagined. What's that supposed to mean? I demanded. Emma chimed in, her tone harsh. You're always working, Mom. You're never here. Dad's the one who's been taking care of us, getting us to school, helping with homework. You're more focused on your clients than on us. My own daughters were turning against me. I struggled to keep my composure. I work to provide for this family, I said, my voice rising. Everything I do is for you too. Olivia scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. Yeah, right. You just hate that Dad's happy with someone else. You're selfish, Mom. You always have been. Tears pricked at my eyes as I stared at them in disbelief. How can you say that? I love you both more than anything. If you really loved us, Emma said with an icy edge, you'd let us be happy. And we're happy with Dad and Natalie. We don't need you. Their words felt like a knife twisting in my heart. Ethan put you up to this, didn't he? I asked, realization dawning. He's been turning you against me, hasn't he? Olivia stood abruptly, her face twisted in anger. No one put us up to anything. We're old enough to make our own choices, and we choose Dad and Natalie. You're not welcome here anymore. I stumbled back, my tears blurring my vision. You don't mean that, I said, my voice trembling. Emma crossed her arms, standing beside her sister, like a united front. We do.
Get out, Mom.
And don't come back.
Their words shattered me.
I fled the house, my chest heaving with sobs as I collapsed onto the front lawn. The betrayal was too much to bear. My husband, my daughters, my entire life.
Gone.
As I lay there, consumed by grief, something shifted inside me. Anger. Cold, burning anger. Ethan had done this. He had turned my daughters against me, manipulating them for his own gain. And Natalie had played along, smiling sweetly while she helped tear our family apart. I wiped my tears away, a new determination taking hold. I wouldn't let them win. I wouldn't let them destroy me.
Pulling out my phone,
I dialed the number of the best divorce attorney in town. Hello, this is Valerie, I said, my voice steady and resolute. I need your help. My husband's been cheating on me, and he's poisoned my daughters against me. I want to take him for everything he's got. As I hung up, a sense of purpose washed over me. I was done being the victim. Ethan and Natalie thought they'd won, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. Sitting in my attorney's office, I could feel the tension in my body. My hands clenched tightly as Jack reviewed the stack of documents I'd brought. Bank statements, credit card bills, and receipts. All the evidence I could gather of Ethan's betrayal lay spread across the desk like a roadmap of my crumbling marriage. Jack, a sharp-eyed man with a calm, yet commanding presence, finally looked up from the papers. Well, Mrs. Thompson, he said, his voice steady, it seems your husband has been quite active in ways you didn't know. I nodded, my jaw tight with anger. He's been draining money from our joint account for months. I didn't realize until I started going through everything. Jack leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled thoughtfully. And you believe he's been using these funds for personal expenses related to his affair? I let out a bitter laugh. Of course. Lavish dinners, jewelry, romantic getaways. He's been throwing our hard-earned money at Natalie while I've been working myself to exhaustion to hold everything together. Jack's expression hardened. What about the assets you share, your home, investments, retirement accounts? I hesitated, the memory of a recent conversation between Ethan and Natalie flashing in my mind. He plans to use everything we've built together to launch a business with her. He wants to leave me with nothing. Jack's jaw tightened. Not if I have anything to say about it. We'll make sure you get your fair share and more. The conviction in his words brought me a sliver of relief, and I couldn't help but feel grateful. Thank you, Jack. I don't know what I'd do without your help. Jack offered me a small, reassuring smile. Save your thanks for when this is all over. Right now, let's focus on strategy. For the next hour, we combed through the evidence, piecing together a rock-solid case against Ethan. Jack was confident we could prove not only his infidelity, but also his financial misconduct, ensuring I'd get what I deserved. When I finally left the office, there was a newfound determination burning inside me. Ethan had taken so much from me, but I would not let him take everything. My phone buzzed with a message from Sophia. How'd it go with the lawyer? I quickly replied, better than I could have imagined. We're going to make Ethan regret every decision he's made. Her response came back almost instantly. That's my girl. You've got this, Val. I'm so proud of you. A small smile tugged at my lips as I read her words. Sophia had been my anchor, the person who reminded me of my strength when I felt like I was falling apart. Climbing into my car, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. My face was pale, my eyes puffy from crying, but something new stared back at me, a flicker of fire, of determination. This wasn't just about me anymore. I had to fight for Olivia and Emma too. My daughters deserved to know the truth about their father, the lies he'd spun, and the betrayal he'd tried to bury under a facade of charm. And Natalie? She thought she could steal my husband, destroy my family, and waltz off into the sunset? She had no idea what she'd gotten herself into. As I pulled out of the parking lot, a strange calm settled over me. The road ahead was daunting, but I was ready to face it head-on. Ethan and Natalie had tried to break me, but they were about to learn that I wasn't just some scorned wife. I was Valerie Thompson, and I would make them regret the day they underestimated me. Sitting across from Jack, my chest tightened as he slid a folder toward me. We've got everything we need, he said confidently, his voice steady. The proof of Ethan's affair and financial misconduct is solid. He has no way to spin this. My hands trembled slightly as I opened the folder. My eyes scanned over photos of Ethan and Natalie in intimate moments, receipts for expensive gifts, and records of funds funneled from our joint accounts to Natalie's personal one. It was undeniable, laid bare in stark, unforgiving detail. He really thought he'd get away with this, I said, my voice a mix of disbelief and anger. Jack nodded, his tone resolute. We'll make sure he doesn't, Valerie. This is more than enough to take him to court and come out on top. The initial rush of relief was quickly replaced by a simmering anger. I don't just want a clean break, Jack, I said firmly. I want him to pay for everything he's done, for throwing away our family and trying to humiliate me in the process. And he will, Jack assured me. I'll make sure of it. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Glancing at the screen, I saw Sophia's name. Excuse me for a moment, I said, stepping out into the hallway. Sophia's voice came through sharp and filled with fury.
Val.
Have you seen Facebook today?
No.
What's going on? I asked cautiously, a sinking feeling in my stomach. It's Ethan, she said, practically spitting his name. He's posting all kinds of garbage, claiming you cheated on him, saying you're a neglectful mom. He's trying to turn the narrative against you. I gripped the phone tighter, anger bubbling to the surface. He's trying to paint me as the villain? I whispered, my voice shaking. After everything he did? Not on my watch, Sophia said, her voice like steel. I've already started responding to his nonsense, and I've got the receipts to prove he's lying. Trust me, Val, people are seeing the truth. A smile crept across my face despite the rage simmering inside me. Soph, I don't know what I'd do without you. Luckily, you'll never have to find out, she replied.
Now.
What's the plan with the lawyer? I quickly filled her in, recounting the evidence Jack had compiled and the strategy we were building. With every detail, my resolve strengthened. This isn't just about justice anymore, I said. It's about standing up for myself, for proving that he can't break me. And you will, Sophia said firmly. He's underestimated you, Val. That's his biggest mistake. Ending the call, I returned to Jack's office with renewed determination. Jack, I said, meeting his gaze. Let's file the papers. I'm ready. A satisfied smile spread across his face. Consider it done, he said. Ethan won't know what hit him. As I walked out of the office, I felt a sense of empowerment I hadn't felt in years. Ethan had tried to rewrite the story. But he'd underestimated the strength of the woman he was up against. This wasn't just a fight for my freedom, it was a fight to reclaim my life. And I was ready to win. "Your father," I began, my voice trembling with a mix of heartbreak and resolve, "has been lying to all of us. He's been stealing money from me and having an affair with Natalie." Olivia and Emma froze, their expressions shifting from confusion to shock. "That's not true." Ethan snapped, his voice desperate. "Don't listen to her, girls. She's just trying to turn you against me because she's bitter about the divorce." I pulled out the folder Jack had prepared for me and held it out for them to see. "This," I said, my voice steady, "is the truth. Bank statements, photos, proof of everything he's done. I didn't want to believe it either, but you deserve to know." Olivia stepped forward, her hands trembling as she took the folder. Emma peered over her shoulder, her wide eyes scanning the evidence. "Dad," Olivia whispered, her voice breaking. "Is this true?" Ethan stammered, his face flushing with anger and shame. "Of course not. This is all fabricated. Your mother's just trying to ruin my life." I took a deep breath, locking eyes with my daughters. "Why would I make this up? I've only ever wanted what's best for you two. Do you really think I'd lie about something this serious?" Emma's lip quivered as she looked from me to Ethan. "Dad, you always told us to be honest. If this isn't true, then explain it." Ethan's silence was deafening. His jaw clenched, his fists tightened, but no explanation came. Natalie stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Ethan, maybe we should just stay out of this," he barked, cutting her off. Olivia dropped the folder onto the coffee table, her face pale and drawn. "I can't believe this," she whispered. "You lied to us. Dad, you lied to all of us." Ethan reached out to her, but she pulled away. "Girls, listen to me," Emma cried, tears streaming down her face. "You broke our family. How could you do this?" I stepped between them, my protective instincts kicking in. "That's enough, Ethan. You've caused enough damage. It's time for you to face the consequences of your actions." Ethan's face darkened, but he said nothing. Olivia and Emma turned to me, their tearful faces breaking my heart all over again. "We're so sorry, Mom," Olivia whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I wrapped them both in a hug, my tears mingling with theirs. "It's not your fault, sweethearts. None of this is your fault." Natalie, looking visibly shaken, backed away toward the door. "I didn't sign up for this," she muttered before slipping out, leaving Ethan standing alone in the wreckage he had created. As I held my daughters close, I felt a newfound strength rising within me. This was far from over, but I knew one thing for sure. Ethan had underestimated me for the last time. The judge flipped through the evidence Jack had submitted, her expression unreadable. She then looked over her glasses at Ethan's lawyer. "Mr. Callahan, unless you can provide counter-evidence that refutes these claims, it appears that your client has indeed violated marital trust and committed financial misconduct. This court does not take such matters lightly." Ethan squirmed in his seat, his cocky demeanor faltering for the first time. "Your Honor," Jack continued, his voice calm but firm, "my client, Mrs. Valerie Thompson, has been subjected to immense emotional and financial harm due to Mr. Thompson's actions. She is seeking full custody of their children, equitable division of assets, and appropriate spousal support." Ethan leapt to his feet, his face red with fury. "This is ridiculous. Valerie has always been absent, always working. I've been the one raising our kids." Jack didn't miss a beat. "Your Honor, the children are present in court today, and they are willing to testify about their father's attempts to manipulate them and about who has truly provided for them throughout their lives." The judge turned to Ethan. "Mr. Thompson, please sit down. This is a court of law, not a shouting match. If the children's testimonies align with the evidence presented, your argument will hold little weight." Ethan slumped back into his seat, shooting me a venomous glare. Olivia and Emma were called to the stand separately. Olivia went first, her voice trembling but steady as she recounted how Ethan had tried to turn her and Emma against me. "I believed him at first," she admitted, her voice cracking. But then Mom showed us the evidence. And I realized he'd been lying to us the whole time. He betrayed all of us, not just her. Emma followed, her determination shining through her nervousness. Mom has always been the one working hard for us. She's the reason we have everything we need. Dad and Natalie, they just wanted to tear our family apart. Their words were daggers to Ethan's carefully constructed image of himself as the devoted father. The judge's gaze was sharp as she addressed him. Mr. Thompson, it appears your daughter's loyalty lies firmly with their mother. Combined with the substantial evidence against you, I am inclined to grant Mrs. Thompson her requests. Ethan's lawyer made a weak attempt to object, but the judge silenced him with a raised hand. This court rules in favor of Mrs. Valerie Thompson. Full custody of the children is awarded to her, and Mr. Thompson is ordered to pay both spousal and child support. Additionally, the marital assets will be divided to ensure Mrs. Thompson receives her fair share. Mr. Thompson's financial misconduct will also be referred for further investigation. A wave of relief washed over me as the gavel struck, signaling the end of the trial. Ethan sat motionless, his face a mask of disbelief and anger. His lawyer muttered something to him, but he didn't respond. As I left the courtroom with Olivia and Emma by my side, Jack placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. You did it, Valerie. Justice was served. I nodded, tears streaming down my face, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming relief of knowing that my daughters and I were finally free. Ethan had underestimated me. Natalie had underestimated me, but I had shown them both. This was my victory. As I walked down the courthouse steps, the weight of months of pain and betrayal began to lift. The air felt clearer, the sunlight warmer, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. Behind me, Natalie's sobs echoed faintly. I didn't look back. They had made their choices, and now they were living with the consequences. Olivia and Emma were waiting for me by Jack's car, their faces a mix of relief and apprehension. I smiled at them, opening my arms. They rushed to me, holding me tightly, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt whole. Are you okay, Mom? Olivia asked, her voice trembling. I am now, I said, stroking her hair. And we're going to be okay, too. I promise. Jack approached, holding a folder with the finalized paperwork. Valerie, you did something incredible today. You fought for yourself and your family. Not many people have the strength to stand up the way you did. I nodded, emotion swelling in my chest. Thank you, Jack, for everything. He gave me a small, reassuring smile. It's what I'm here for. Now go home and start building the life you deserve. That night, I stood in the kitchen of my house. It felt strange and liberating to know that I had fought for this space and won. Olivia and Emma sat at the table, helping themselves to the pizza we'd picked up on the way home. Their laughter filled the room, light and unburdened, and I felt a pang of gratitude that we were finally able to begin healing. As I looked around, a sense of determination settled over me. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of a new chapter. I had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and manipulation, but I had emerged stronger. Ethan and Natalie were now part of my past, a lesson in resilience and self-worth. I didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. I was free. Free to rebuild, free to love myself, and free to show my daughters that strength isn't about avoiding pain. It's about rising above it. And rise I would. As we hugged, a flood of emotions washed over me. Relief, love, and the hope of rebuilding what had been broken. The past year had been one of the hardest of our lives, but in that moment, I knew we were taking the first steps toward healing as a family. Olivia wiped her tears and gave me a small, shaky smile. You're incredible, Mom. After everything, you're still here for us. I cupped her face gently. Because that's what being a mom is, Liv. I'll always be here, no matter what. Emma sniffled, resting her head on my shoulder. We don't deserve you. I kissed her hair. You deserve the world. Both of you do. And I'll do everything in my power to make sure you have it. As we sat there, We began to talk about their dreams and plans. Olivia wanted to study environmental science, while Emma had her heart set on becoming a graphic designer. "We'll figure out the money," I said firmly. "It's going to take some creativity and hard work, but we'll make it happen. I promise." For the first time in months, their eyes sparkled with hope. "Thank you, Mom," Olivia said, her voice steady now. "For everything. And we'll help too. We'll get part-time jobs, apply for every scholarship we can find. We'll make you proud." "You already do," I replied, my voice breaking. That evening, after the girls left, my apartment felt quieter, but it wasn't the kind of loneliness that weighed me down anymore. Instead, it was a quiet filled with hope and purpose. We still had challenges ahead, but I knew we were stronger now, stronger together. For the first time in a long while, I allowed myself to dream of the future, one filled with love, laughter, and the unbreakable bond of a family that had weathered the storm. We weren't perfect, but we were enough. And that was all I needed. As I held Olivia and Emma close, a deep sense of peace washed over me. The pain of the past no longer felt like a heavy weight. It had transformed into a reminder of how far we had come. "You two mean everything to me," I said softly, my voice catching with emotion. "No matter what happened before, what matters is where we are now. And we've come so far." Emma wiped her eyes and smiled. "You've taught us so much, Mom, about resilience, strength, and love. We're so lucky to have you." "And I'm lucky to have you both," I replied, squeezing them tightly. The rest of the evening was filled with laughter, heartfelt conversations, and dreams for the future. Surrounded by my daughters and the incredible life I had rebuilt, I felt a level of joy I hadn't thought possible just a few years ago. As the event wound down, I stepped outside for a moment to breathe in the cool evening air. The city lights sparkled in the distance, a symbol of the endless possibilities that lay ahead. The hardships I had endured were part of my story, but they no longer defined me. Instead, they had shaped me into the strong, independent woman I had become, a woman who refused to be broken, who chose to rise above the betrayal and pain. Olivia and Emma joined me on the balcony, their laughter echoing softly into the night. "What are you thinking about, Mom?" Olivia asked, leaning against the railing. I smiled, looking at her and Emma with pride. "How grateful I am," I said simply. "For this moment, for this life. For us." And in that moment, I knew the truth. We had weathered the storm, and now we stood together, stronger than ever. Emma nodded, her eyes glistening as a tear slipped down her cheek. "We love you, Mom, more than anything." I pulled them both into a hug, my heart swelling with emotion. "I love you too, my sweet girls, always and forever." As I gazed out at the shimmering city skyline, a wave of peace washed over me. The twinkling lights felt like a reflection of the new life I had forged, a life filled with strength, love, and hope. I had endured betrayal, heartbreak, and loss, but I had come through it all. I wasn't the woman I used to be. I was stronger now, more determined and unshakable. I was Valerie Thompson, more than a survivor, more than a fighter. I was a woman who had rebuilt her life piece by piece and reclaimed her happiness. With my daughters by my side, I knew there was nothing I couldn't face. Together, we had weathered the storm, and together, we would step boldly into the future. And in that moment, I realized I had already won.